welcome.
Where will you be going?
Oh,
you messed it up, Michelle. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Texas?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Go on, make it happen.
And now here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome to another great episode of Mallet and Michelle with your host, me, Michelle Lewis, back from the land of cough drops and cozy blankets.
Oh, God.
And Steve Mallet, Mr. Germaphobe, with a can of Lysol at his hip.
And it didn't work.
And it didn't, I'm sorry.
I have washed my hands are like little crinkled up, dried out little prunes or something, man, because I have washed my hands so many times in the last week, and I still got it. So
I'm sorry. But you know what? Hey, at least you didn't fall off the patio like I did.
No,
So-
no. At least I got that going for me. But
Yeah.
Mrs., I'm all dizzy and I'm falling off the back porch.
Yeah, I did. I felt really good, and then I wasn't. But then,
I think that's the way this one goes. Is like it kind of tricks you a little bit. It's like, hey, you're feeling pretty good. Why don't you go outside? And then you're laying in the yard.
Well, you know what I equate this to? This was the cowboy cooties, because I was at the Houston Rodeo, and I was with, 3 million of my closest friends.
I don't know where Holly didn't go to the rodeo and she got it.
I don't know.
So.
Maybe she sneaks out and goes
Maybe
dancing
she
with cowboys.
does. Maybe I sleep really good and I would never know. Hey, our guest today, Dr. Benning, Nadia Benning, she does TMS therapy, which is transcranial magnetic stimulation, which I never heard of that, but apparently it's a big thing now. It's a trend.
It's funny because I heard about this years and years and years ago when my oldest was really small, when we first found out that he had dyslexia from a neuropsychologist. And I always kind of thought it was pseudoscience, but I guess it's
becoming more mainstream now.
And as a matter of fact, this morning I had an appointment with my lovely Dr. Delbarato, and I was telling her that we were interviewing Dr. Benning today, and she said so many of her patients are using
cool.
this TMS.
I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that, because at first when you said she was coming on, I was a little skeptical, but I've done a little bit of research, and it sounds fascinating.
It's very fascinating. And we need to thank our sponsors.
We do.
Nomic Power Solutions.
Backup power generation. If you don't have a backup power generator right now, you got to call those guys.
Okay, the other night, not to change the subject, but the other night the power went out in High Point.
And you thought of Nomic.
I did. You know why? Because my neighbors, Stu and Sylvia, they have a generator, and I heard that stupid thing go off, and it just made me mad. I wanted to go, because I couldn't hear anything, and all I could hear was their generator. So, okay.
The sound of freedom.
The sound of freedom. Jovi Belterra.
Yes, if you're 55 plus and you want to live in a great community, that's your home.
That's right. South Star Bank. Love those.
They're awesome, aren't they?
I love them.
That's the only bank I've ever walked into. When you walk in there, they go, "Hello, Mr. Mallet." I love that. So, and Mallet Integrity Team.
Who are those people?
Yeah, that must be some real estate folks or something.
Oh my gosh, some crazy real estate people.
Yeah. So you have a story about
this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this story without laughing, because this story really cracks me up. Okay, so I think it was last episode I touched a little bit on the controversy that was going on at Sycamore Springs here locally, and there was some sort of furry protest. And for those of you that don't know what a furry is, it's people that
This is in the middle school?
They wear costumes, and they're called fursuits. I'm going to really try to get through this. Okay, so there is a new bill that has been introduced or been filed, and it's called AKA the Furries Act. It's the Forbidden Unlawful Representation of Role-Playing in Education. It bans non-human behavior in schools, and there are exemptions for events like Halloween, mascots, plays, etc.
Well, that makes sense.
Right. But it forbids students from barking, meowing,
Oh, my
hissing,
God.
and using litter boxes.
What the hell is going on in the world where we need to have our state government come up with
A waste.
laws that prevent kids from going to school and disrupting dressed as animals?
Well, I'm sorry. It starts at home. So if you are a parent that is allowing your child to go,
we want you as a guest on the
Yeah, I want
podcast
you
because
so
we
I
want to
can-
know what you're thinking.
so I can roast you. The trend started.
We won't roast them.
I will.
want to. I honestly,
will.
seriously, if I had a parent here though that was like, well, this is all the reasons why I'm letting my kid go to school in 5th grade dressed as a
And
furry.
disrupt the education.
No, I want to hear it though. I want to.
I want to hear it.
I would bet they're not crazy people. They in their head have rationalized why they should allow their kids to
That is
go
crazy.
to school.
That is for legit crazy.
But I'd want to hear. I won't agree with it, but
I
I'd
would
still like
be
to hear it.
Pissed if I was if
Yeah.
I had kids
Yeah.
in that school and
My kid was not getting the education that they deserved
100%.
because the teacher was spending half of his or her day catering to somebody dressed as a monkey.
Absolutely. Well, the furry. Can I come to work dressed as a monkey? The furry trend started in the 1980s, back in the 1900s, as
yeah.
the kids these days would say, from comic books and science fiction, like Star Wars and stuff like that. I called them fursuits. But they meet up for gatherings and conventions around the world. As a matter of fact, in Dallas, they're going to have the Furry Fiesta in April, which is fine.
More power
it's like
to them.
Comic-Con,
Yeah,
whatever.
more power to them. Don't do it during school.
But during this hearing that they're going to have for this bill, lawmakers fully expect the subculture to show up in this is what made me really laugh, in full furry vengeance.
Furry vengeance.
At the committee hearing, which the date
I gotta
has
write
not
that
quite
down.
been set. But I spoke to a Sycamore Springs mother the other day, and I wanted to know, because I just saw a bunch of social media chatter back
Yeah.
and forth, and I was kind of reading comments and stuff, and I wanted to know, look, is this really going on? Like, what is your experience? And she stated, yes, some of these kids walk around with stuffies, a stuffed animal,
Okay.
right? And that identifies for whatever animal that they are identifying with, right? So they're walking around with the cat. But I mean,
That's different than dressing up.
well,
though.
she said there are people but they are barking and they're hissing, and
No,
then they
not-
have the
no,
cat
not allowed.
ears and
Not allowed.
stuff like that.
No.
So
You're supposed to be teaching kids how to speak properly, and you're letting them bark in school.
they took cursive out of school, and so they're allowing this
Yeah.
kind of behavior. I used to tell my kids this when they would say they're having an issue with so and so or whatever, or a teacher, and I was like, I don't really care. I don't give an
Yeah.
ass. I don't care. You are there to learn. You are
Yep.
not there to make friends. I
Yep.
do not care.
Yep.
And so, whatever. But
Yeah, it's perplexing to me that why can't we just go back to having a dress code? You have to come to school dressed a certain way,
uniforms.
or even uniforms.
I would have.
You think about that. Think about the pressure that relieves from kids having to get up in the morning. Is this cool enough? Does this fit well? Is this in trend? You just put the same thing on that everybody else
Yeah.
does, and you go to school and you learn.
Down
That's
in
all
the
you got to do.
valley, they have, because they have a lot of other issues down in the valley, but a lot of the schools down there are school uniforms.
They should, I think
I'm
they should be.
100%.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
be 100%.
You know,
on board
and
with it.
parents would probably spend a lot less money on school clothes because you instead of whatever $300 sneakers, everybody wears black Reeboks or something, and they're $65, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, well, I think it's funny now. New Balance, which are the dad mall walking shoes, are now popular again with the kids.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the New Balance are cool shoes.
Yeah, I
but-
found out so I run in Hoka running shoes, and apparently those are granddad shoes now. So welcome to my world. But
what do they call it? Chuggy. Don't be chuggy.
don't be
Steve
chuggy.
Mallett.
Oh God, I don't even know what that is. Have you know what the NASDAQ is?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's the stock market.
It's It's the National Association of Securities Dealer Automated
I didn't know. I had to
Quotations.
know the-
Yes, you
the-
had to know the
the
acronym.
acronym.
So it's an online global marketplace for buying and trading securities. So do you remember all the videos from like the 70s where in the pit in Wall Street where
Oh,
the
yeah.
guys were standing there with a pencil and a notepad and they're screaming and yelling and, I'll buy it, I'll sell it,
That
like
looks
that.
so stressful.
Well, so the NASDAQ came in and made all of that electronic. And the NASDAQ is mostly towards technology stocks. So like Apple is in the NASDAQ, Microsoft, Alphabet, Meta, Amazon, Tesla are all NASDAQ stocks. So you can buy and sell those on the NASDAQ. Well, NASDAQ is opening an office in Dallas.
I saw that.
They have recognized Texas as a financial sort of center point in the country.
Dallas has always been the financial hub of the South, and it's just kind of known for that. So that's
so they actually have a nickname for it, which I think is fantastic.
What's Yeehaw?
No. So there's Wall Street, and now in Texas there's Y'all Street.
Oh, look,
Y'all
that was
Street.
almost.
Isn't that great?
Y'all Street.
Y'all Street.
Oh,
So
that's pretty funny.
So this headquarters in Dallas will serve Texas and the entire Southeast. And it's showing me that we're not a bunch of hicks out here in Texas. There's some real financial players here in Texas. Meta is moving their corporate headquarters or their corporation from Delaware. Tesla has moved all of their stuff here. We're becoming a real tech-heavy state now.
Yeah, I saw there was somebody. Gosh, what was I watching? It was some national news organization, and they were talking about. No, it wasn't national news. That's what it was. It was one of Tariq El Masoui or whatever, flipping. Like
What?
It was on HGTV, and he was talking about the Tesla neighborhood that Elon Musk is building outside of Bastrop, Smithville, right around
to
there.
house all the people that he has hired.
Which I think is amazing.
He employs in
that he
West Austin.
He
area.
only owns like 12.8% of Tesla, and the rest of it is in your 401k. So if you are damaging a Tesla, then you are basically
you're not because you're not damaged. If you're going up in somebody's driveway and damaging a Tesla, that does absolutely nothing to Tesla. It doesn't impact them in any way. If you go to the dealer now,
only Tesla can fix Tesla. So he's actually
you're actually helping them. Yeah, the people that are doing that are absolute idiots. And then the other thing is now these politicians, what's his name, the VP Waltz, Tim Waltz, came out and he said he has an app on his phone and every day he checks it and he loves seeing the Tesla stock go down. Dude, you're a freaking idiot. That's an American company with American employees, and you are wishing that their business suffers? Yeah, like how tone deaf can you be?
Well,
by the way, I checked this morning. The Tesla stock yesterday went up 12%.
Yeah,
So,
apparently sales are booming right now, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd be driving a Tesla right now.
I know. Well, going back to my story, there's over 200 Texas companies now listed on the NASDAQ. And so the world is really starting to notice Texas as a financial epicenter. Maybe one day Mallet and Michelle will be
on
the NASDAQ?
Maybe we
traded
will.
Publicly?
Yes. So. Speaking of technology, okay, Steve, have you ever done one of those DNA tests to find if you're actually human or not?
No, I have not, because I'm afraid they'll put the results that I'm an alien out online.
So 23andMe is one of those sites where you can do your own little swab.
You're going to show yours in public?
Well, I mean, kind of. Mine isn't 23andMe. Mine is Ancestry.com.
Oh, okay.
I did an Ancestry.com, and I thought for sure my grandmother had done our family history, and she went all the way back to like the 1400s, which was really cool. We actually have a castle. I just want to let you know.
Yeah, look, you're 35% Scottish.
I know.
That's pretty wild.
I know, isn't that cool? So I thought this was all that I was going to find out was like where in the region, which I kind of already knew where I was from.
So you're sort of North Europe is where you're.
So my son saw this and he goes, "You're white."
Okay.
57% England and Northwestern Europe, 35% Scotland.
So 2% of you is from England and Scotland.
Yeah, so I thought this was all it was, right? I mean, when I first got on it. But it has evolved. I think I've had this since, 2013, something like that. But there's a lot more. You can do your family trees in there, which
My
is really
dad has spent
cool.
a lot of time. He got back in our family into the 1700s.
Oh, it's super cool when you start to really kind of play in it. But apparently there was a breach that happened at 23andMe a while back, And 23andMe, because of all of the settlements and stuff that they've had to pay, they have filed for bankruptcy.
They filed for bankruptcy.
They have filed for bankruptcy.
Their stock now, which I can't remember, I think company was valued at like $7 billion, and their stock now is worth like 91 cents.
Well, so the funny story is, through Ancestry, I always thought I was going to find some long-lost relative, and then I got a message from this lady who was like a genealogist, and my DNA connected with somebody else's DNA, and my grandfather actually had a child. It was my mom's sister, but she was put up for adoption. I know.
Okay.
And
I lost you already.
It's my aunt. It's a long lost aunt of mine that I didn't know, and I denied it for a while, but so it found, I know people are finding like their parents and, other siblings or whatever, but the California Attorney General has advised to go into 23andMe and delete all of your data history. Yep. Up to 15 million people could have their info for sale. 23andMe, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy after a 2023 breach that exposed personal and genetic data of 7 million users, which is crazy. 23andMe they also owe money to pharmaceutical companies, this is what I thought was very interesting. AI companies, health insurers, and marketing.
They've been selling your data to these companies so that they can market drugs to you or services. So I read this morning about 23andMe. One of the main reasons that they are going bankrupt is their business model was not sound. Nobody pays for that service more than once. It's not an ongoing thing.
Oh, interesting.
So you think about it. You have a customer one time, and then you never get them again. They started rolling out these subscription services that were like $2.29 a month, and basically all that was happening was people were being paying to be marketed to by all these companies, because they would say, "Oh, we'll give your data to all these companies, and they'll tell you supplements and things that you can take," so nobody was subscribing to that.
Well,
so their business model was flawed.
Ancestry.com, they're actually really expensive.
Yeah.
So I have the free version. I've never truly tried to pay for it. But and so I did mine through Ancestry.com, and like I said, I've had mine for a long, long time, and my family trees all over everywhere. But other genetic databases have shared info with law enforcement and various corporations, raising concern about future misuse. 23andMe claims that all data will be protected. Yeah, whatever. But a sale could put your info into unknown buyers' hands, knowing who knows what. And once your genetic data is out there, it's out there. So here was another thing when I started going down this little rabbit hole. I went and did my research on TikTok, of course, where all good people do research. No, but I found out that I could
That's a segue to my next story.
I could download my raw DNA data, and I did. It's freaking fascinating. And so then you take this raw DNA data, and you can put it into another program called Genetic Genie, or there's other, like Prometheus, I think is what it's called. And you put it in there, and it reads it, and it tells you what genetic markers potentially you have
for
diseases and stuff, which is very interesting, because one of them that came up was Parkinson's. My grandfather died of Parkinson's. My father and one of my children have Tourette's, which is a mild Tourette.
Okay.
Parkinson's is a derivative of Tourette's, my understanding, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, well, that's really interesting, kind of, and it shows you like how likely you are to get it, and it talks about the hetero genes and the homo genes and all this other something way over my head. I
would argue that there are some things in life that are better left unknown. Like if I'll change the subject for you. If somebody came to you and said, "I can tell you the exact moment of your death," and they could, would you want them to?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
I would want that to be unknown. I don't want my life to be dictated by some certain point in time in the future. Hey, in 2032, in February 10th, you're going to die.
I would want to know that. I differ in one sense, because I've had several girlfriends who have, because their mother had breast cancer, and they have test positive for the BRCA gene, and so. Because of that, they have potentially saved their own lives by doing mastectomies and hysterectomies and things like that. So that in
I
that
can see
sense.
that. The other side of that, though, is maybe you say, oh, you have a propensity for, you said Parkinson's. And then all of a sudden one day you wake up and you know, your hand hurts a little bit. You're like, oh, is it Parkinson's? If I've got Parkinson's
No, but,
now, I
mean,
feel like
guess
that would start to
if
make
you're
you
very health, what's the word? Not conscious, but
oriented.
Health crazy. You know,
Yeah.
like if you really
lot of
kind of go
people
down
are.
that path, yeah, I feel like it could kind of be a mind
Yeah.
bleep with you. Yeah, I would see that.
Yeah.
But you know what? One of the things that was fascinating to me, it said because of my genetic markers, it said I was like 5 times likely to have lupus, and I was like, oh,
well,
guess what?
that makes
I have
sense.
lupus.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it told me a lot of things that I already know. But one of the biggest things I saw, like my father had colon cancer. My father died from colon cancer, and so you know I know there's a lot of new research
Did
now.
that show that you had a propensity
It had
for
digestive colon issues, Crohn's, which I have.
I see a colonoscopy in your future, Michelle.
I've had several. They're not fun.
No, they are not fun. I
But,
just had one last month.
you know, I have to tell you, I think there's a lot of good that comes down from this genetic testing and DNA testing.
Yeah.
And you can find long lost, you know, relatives or
Yeah.
whatever, and you can find out where you're from. And
I feel like a curmudgeon because my dad did all this research, and I tried to be really interested in it, but I couldn't get into it.
I
like
am
he did.
fascinated by it. I really, really am. I love history, and
Yeah.
one of my bucket list items is to go to the Burgholt Castle in Austria, and I want to go. I'm gonna work on my wave, and I'm gonna say I own
Pull
this
up in the
bitch.
limo.
Yeah.
I own this. That's funny. Kind of along the same lines here about being online. I've read an article in Mashable, and D. Marsh is going to hate me because I'm always talking about bad things about social media. But this headline for this is, the age of being very online is over. Meaning there's a lot of people now that are checking out of social media because we've lost our sense of community. A lot of people were drawn to Facebook and Instagram because, you know, I could follow you and I could see what you were doing on vacation and, you know, kind of catch up with you. And the algorithms have all changed now, and having a sense of community no longer exists. Like if you and I did it yesterday on Instagram. We went in our feeds, both of our feeds, and it was 2 posts and an ad. The whole feed was like that. And none of them were like people that we know, like friends or acquaintances. They were all like, you know, Porsche Club of America, and then cycling. And then so the algorithm was like, oh, Steve's going to like this. So these apps went from bringing people together, you know, clubs and neighborhoods and stuff, to now they're just places where you go and people try and sell you crap.
Don't you think there's like some sort of comfort in that, knowing that, like, especially our children and maybe our children's children, they're getting back to relationships?
I
like,
do think
face to
that.
face. My kids are not online. Like, they do not post hardly ever at
Yeah.
all. Now, Kendall,
That goes right along with what I was
Kendall
saying.
does a little bit, and my pastor's wife, Sharon Barton, she told me the other day, she goes, it just brings me such comfort to know that Kendall posts pictures of your grandbaby online because I get to see her. And she goes, nobody posts pictures anymore. So Sharon actually had said that. So,
You know, yeah. That's exactly that's what we used to want. That's what we used to crave, right? Is, you know, what's going on in so-and-so's life? Let me see what they're doing,
Yeah.
where they're traveling. So everything has gone from being connections to seeking to go viral. Do you remember Very Demure? Like this
Very
lady,
demure,
did you
very
know that
mindful.
video was done by a woman and she shared it with her friends
Yes.
as kind of a joke, and then it went viral?
Yep.
Remember the Choctaw girl? That was just a little, I know, don't go down that rabbit trail. But she started a Bitcoin or a crypto coin.
she's going to jail
Yeah,
soon.
she's going to jail. But the point is, these people now, they don't focus on doing posts to connect people. They do them solely to get more people to look at
Yeah.
the post. And I think this is very disturbing. More kids are checking out and not doing it, but 30% of kids in 18 and under were asked what they want to do when they grow up. 30% of them said they want to be online influencers.
What?
30%.
Well, how are you going
That's
to be an
scary to me.
online influencer if you're not
Well,
online?
I know there's like this. No, I'm saying it's like this dichotomy. There are some kids completely getting offline, and there are some kids that are so engrossed in it they want it to be a part of their professional life or their whole professional life.
You know, it is kind of a slippery slope and kind of a just a weird position to be in, because like on the neighbors page, someone said, "Oh my gosh, how do I get rid of car detailers, air vent cleaners, and real estate agents?"
Oh God!
And so I thought it was funny because, I mean, you know, it is part of a necessary evil of our business. You know, people hire us to showcase their
That's
properties, right? And one of the ways that we can showcase them is online. In addition to having property tours and having your house look the best it can look. But, you know, you want to get the house out or the property out to as many eyes as possible.
But the fact is, most people go search at realtor.com.
I know. I don't ever post our properties on Dripping Springs Neighbors.
Yeah.
I personally don't. I mean, when I first started working for you, you were doing it still on Craigslist, weren't you?
I was.
Yes. And I was like, no, that is where killers live. We were not doing
And you turned out to be right.
And you're right.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that my takeaway on this article was I worry about how we're changing our brains with this whole social media thing, and how we're absorbing this content.
It's just it's constant need for validation.
Yeah. But the overall trend I'm happy about. I'm sorry, Dee, but the overall trend is, especially younger people are getting offline. They're getting unplugged from these apps, and I think that's a good thing.
You know, the things that always go, quote, viral in our minds is like over 500 views.
Yeah, it's true.
Is when I have Steve do something really stupid, or
It's so dumb, isn't it? What was the skipping down the hall one? Got like 4,500 views or something. I don't know.
I met him do a video because I didn't think Steve knew how to skip, and I was like, Steve,
and I'm a pretty damn good skipper.
He's skippity-doo-dah all the way.
Well, we'll wrap that up. I found this story, and I wanted to talk about it real quick. This blows my mind. The Austin metro area is now the 25th most populous U.S. city in the country, with 2.5 million people. When I moved here, it was less than 1 million. Matter of fact, I think it was less than 800,000. And now there are 2.5 million people in the greater Austin area. 2003.
I moved here in 1993, in Austin, the first time.
Yeah. So just since 2020, which was the COVID thing that happened, 270,000 new residents have come. It's a net 270, because sometimes people leave. So we've added 270,000 new people since 2020.
You know what? I mean, it's not terrible. You know, I think the terrible part is the politicians did not keep up with the roads. They did not anticipate that type of growth. And so if you're driving on Mopac or 35...
but they're idiots, because everybody was saying, man, Austin is the place to go. That's, everybody's moving there.
I remember in 94, I was in a car accident on 35 because traffic is so bad even
and
back then.
I think it's always been bad. I think when they built I-35, it had too much traffic on it. The day they opened it, it couldn't support the amount of traffic.
Oh yeah, I remember. I would hate if we were going to Dallas. I was like, we got to go through 35 back in the day. Like,
I know.
In the
the
90s.
whole time I've been here, you're like, avoid I-35.
Yeah. So growth is good. Responsible.
I'm glad they're working
better.
on 290 for all those people that don't want 290 to be improved. If we don't improve 290, it's going to get really bad.
That Oak Hill, I'm sorry, but look, back in 1994 when they took away my Taco Bell and that little cafe down there, that looks really cool. I'm pretty impressed.
It's going to be really nice when they open all that up, when you can come off of Mopac there and get on an overpass and cut all the way through Oak Hill with no lights and no stop signs.
Every time you drive through there, it's like, okay, which road am I taking now?
I know, you really got to be aware, don't you? But, and then they'll do that section. When that section in Oak Hill is finished, they will do the section from there all the way through about the middle of Dripping Springs.
You want to know what I heard, though? You want to? I forgot to tell you this.
Yes.
This is a little juicy tidbit. Okay, this is from my inside source at TxDOT eminent domain area. TxDOT doesn't have any money right now. They have no money.
Really?
Yep. So probably what's going to happen with us is unless
it's going to get pushed down the road.
Way down the road, way down the road. So, because I was
Do
asking
they get
about
money in October at the start of the fiscal year?
Maybe I was asking about the eminent domain cases out here and if they've seen any of them out here for 290, and because they've got 2 offices, one in Austin and one in Houston. And what I was told, my source told me that TxDOT has no money.
Wow.
And so if they're offering you something, you better take it.
They'll have the money. If they're making an offer, they'll have the money. But anyway, well, that's all fascinating to me. I can't wait to see how that corridor is going to be improved over the years, but it's not going to come without some hassles. But let's take a little break and get Dr. Nadia Benning in here.
Nadia
Benning, and talk about TMS. So we'll be right back. Sit tight. Wow, good job.